Welcome back, everybody, to Creating Communities for Neurodivergent People. We have as our guest today John McFadden, our co-host, but he's going to be a
So,
guest today,
yep.
and his aide, Kate Waltermeyer. Who,
Hello.
hey, Kate. Yeah, and I just met Kate 2 weeks ago when we did another interview, and she was a surprise guest because she was there working with John. So
Hmm.
then because she was so great at what she said and her input, I said, well, let's just focus on you, what you do as an aide, and what you're teaching John, and any struggles you're both having. I want to know what it's like, what John's learning right now, and how he's advancing his independence now that he has his own apartment. So, Kate.
Yes, ma'am.
You did share with us the last time we talked on 2 weeks ago interview, that you yourself were neurodivergent. Could you
Yes, ma'am.
explain that to us?
So I am ADHD and high functioning autism. I was diagnosed with ADHD, I think about when I was maybe 10. The autism diagnosis came a few years later. I'm higher up on the spectrum. So you don't really look at me and be like, oh, she's autistic, but I am very neurodivergent. It comes out in many different ways. John likes to say when I start making my weird little noises and gestures that there goes my ADHD.
Yep.
Oh, like what, for instance?
He'll
I have
do.
different ticks that just come out
Do you?
throughout the day.
Okay.
Yesterday we were in the car. We were driving somewhere. I think we were coming actually back to his apartment, and
Yeah.
I was sitting in traffic, and I started meowing for no reason. It was just a tick in my brain that just boosted dopamine.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. Kate, why were you what prompted the diagnosis a few years ago in which you saw autistic
So
spectrum?
I struggled with mental health my entire life. I'm someone who has suffers from depression and anxiety and
Mm.
a few other disorders there. So growing up, I was always the kid that couldn't sit still, that was off the wall, the weird quiet one. So I had asked my mom when we were actually living in Canada to go talk to someone. I had been in and out of therapy my entire life, and they had thrown around the diagnosis of ADHD, but never wanted to fully diagnose. So we finally went through and got fully diagnosed. And then as an adult, I think it was like 17 or 18, I went to the doctors on my own, and I was like, I think there's something else there other than ADHD. I was like, there's certain things that I do that don't follow ADHD, because when I got diagnosed with it, I researched it. I wanted to know what was wrong with me, or not necessarily wrong with me, but in a sense more of this new superpower I have, because
Yep, nicely
I
said.
my ADHD is can make people laugh. It can bring so people together. I've seen it happen. A few of my friends and I, when we go out, I tend to be the one, if it's awkward, to just be like, "Hey guys." John sees a lot of my weirdness when it comes to the ADHD. And
Okay, so can you just give us two or three bullet points of behavior that indicates ADHD?
so for me as a woman, because ADHD in women statistically shows up a lot differently than it does in men.
Oh.
For me personally, we figured out I was ADHD when I was struggling, one, to focus in class, in school. I could not focus for the life of me, but I loved to learn. I hyperfixate on things quite a lot. And then ADHD can also be a part of depression and anxiety. You have
Mm.
the hyper energy side of it, to where you're bouncing off the walls, don't want to stop, and then you can immediately, like, it's like hitting like a brick wall some days. And then I'm shut down. I don't want to do anything. I struggle with eating, sleeping, doing simple tasks. I also struggle with too many tasks or larger tasks, to where I have to break them down, which that was another sign of the ADHD for me. I struggled with a lot of overstimulation.
Okay. All right. That makes it clearer to me too. Because first of all, I like to understand people when I'm talking to them, and I want to be compassionate. I want to be flexible. Sometimes I am not, but it's helpful to know who we're talking to and just so we can be more accepting and communicate better. Okay.
Absolutely.
So then for autism, what are some signs of autism?
For me personally, my autism it's kind of hidden, but it shows in certain aspects. I personally do not like large crowds. I never have. I immediately get very, very anxious. I also have to have what I call my safe person. For me, that would be my partner. Um, and without him, some days it's really hard. Besides him, I have an orange cat that I kind of use to
It's a
help
fat cat.
emotionally regulate because it's something safe for me. So that's one big thing for me. And then this is gonna make you laugh. Socks. I do not like the feeling of socks on my feet.
Uh,
Um, I'm very weird with certain textures of clothing and food and even drinks sometimes. Um, really struggled with that growing up, and even now I struggle with certain textures. And then this is gonna sound really off the wall, but I had a doctor in Canada tell me this. I have severe sensitivity to sunlight sometimes. I've always struggled with migraine headaches, and we thought that was the cause of it, but it turns out that is actually a part of my autism. I struggle with outside lighting and like artificial lighting, and it can trigger that overstimulation and almost cause a meltdown. And when I'm severely stressed, I tend to go nonverbal, and then I'm still learning as an adult to regulate my feelings and process them a little bit healthier instead of just going nonverbal and then just busting out crying to where I can't breathe, and then I'm trying to struggle to calm down and regulate to explain to someone what's wrong, and sometimes I just can't.
mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's another big thing for the autism.
Okay. I'm going to address something about that in a second, but I just want to switch to John really quickly.
Yes,
Has anything that Kate described just now that supports the diagnosis of autism, do you struggle with some of those things?
I
Crowds. She
think,
said crowds.
yeah, crowds, I think is one, and I think overstimulation, I think uh is like I think mine, but my thing. Yeah.
Okay, so when I was talking to you yesterday, I called John on the way home from work yesterday, and I said,
Yeah.
just don't want you to forget, the time for the interview, make sure we're all on board. And so he said, yeah. And then he said, I'm struggling with math. I'm doing math right now.
Yeah.
Was that difficult for you?
Mm, sometimes,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not. It's just I have to do it a specific way, like up and down. And sometimes when it goes cross like this, it kind of like
Left
it's
to right.
yeah,
Okay, and you also said something the other day, and Kate, this is good for you to know. He's probably shared this with you, but um, just because we talk, you said cooking. It
yeah,
gets on your nerves that you are learning cooking, which told me Kate was on it. She was going to make sure, but that
yes.
was too much for you. Talk about that a little bit.
It's just it's just new for me to cook because we have to do like what meal prepping. I don't know. Yeah, like having to do what is it?
Could it be too much doing alone?
Yeah.
Like when I'm not with you?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Mm,
say.
okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what was talk to me about the math? What were you doing? Because
Oh, we
mathematics is one of your challenges.
yes. Well, what Kate does is she leaves we have workbooks and she leaves me like homework, and then I practice on math, and then that, and we do,
We do
yeah,
reading and writing. So
yeah,
when I first started working with John, getting all of his information from my wonderful company, I wanted to sit down with John. I actually got to meet him before I started working with him.
yeah.
And in our kind of passing, we talked about learning and that we both have a passion for it and
Hmm.
that he struggles in certain areas. So during one of my first few shifts with John, I came to him and I was like, hey, what if we started like a daily learning? Like we sit down together, we go over our sight words, we read books. John is actually starting to read full like picture books
Sentences.
and sentences by himself, and I don't have to really help him. We actually just got a new book. I unfortunately don't have it with me today,
It's
but
Dr. Seuss.
it's a multiple book of Dr. Seuss books. And yesterday, John read an entire book by himself,
Yeah,
only struggled over maybe 3 or 4 words
Nice.
since we've started working together. So
Nice.
we created a daily learning zone or like a learning time to where I sit down and I help him and we kind of teach each other through it. It's
yeah,
really cool for us to connect like that. And
Hmm.
it's helping John meet his expectations and goals and strengthening his weakest areas.
yes.
Okay, this is incredible. How do you know how to teach?
I have always had a love for helping people and helping people learn. So truthfully, I have 2 beautiful nephews and I love kids. So anytime I'm around kids or getting to raise them, with my sister and being a part of their life and being auntie, I learned over the years of flashcards, different workbooks, and John was actually with me when we bought the workbooks and
Yeah.
we stood in the Walmart book aisle for almost 25 minutes together going through each different workbook,
Hmm.
figuring out what he would like different things that we could work on, and the 3 workbooks that we settled on are fantastic. We're currently working on trying to get to a library or something to make copies. So on the days that I'm not with John, or if like this past week I had to have a procedure done
Yeah.
and I was out a few days, I can leave packets for him that he can still continue to learn without me. And then when we come back together, we sit down, we review it together. And if there is something minor that's like a mistake or something, I don't make John feel small. I sit and I explain it to him and we work together to figure it out.
And this is why parents are not always the best people to teach
Uh-uh.
their kids. I mean, their neurodivergent kids, certainly, because first of all, it takes a lot of patience. And sometimes I think it's better to come from an outside perspective. Also, you seem to, Kate, just have a natural vibe for organization, different approaches. Yeah.
When it's for someone else, absolutely. I can organize anything. For myself, it's a little chaotic. I'm a full-time college student apart along with working with John full-time, and working with another client full-time as a caregiver. So my personal life's a little chaotic with organizing things, but when it comes to my babies, I like to call them, because I care them for them like they're my own kids. It just happens. I put my heart and soul into my working relationships with my clients. I live and breathe for them even when I'm not working. I'm constantly thinking of what can we do this week to work on this area? What can we do fun that maybe we worked on this for so long? How can we reward this good behavior with something that John's going to enjoy? We
Uh-huh.
actually were just talking about in September planning a trip to his favorite record store down in Pittsburgh and a day out. um,
Yeah.
we had a small victory lunch yesterday at our of the little deli across the street because
Yes.
we had a very important meeting in the morning.
Yeah.
We got back, we did some things, we went and did everything. We went and got our exercise for the day. And
Hmm.
I was like, "Hey, buddy, you've been doing so amazing lately. Let me buy you lunch today. It's my treat. I want to
Yeah.
treat you because you have shown me so much improvement from where we started."
Yeah.
I
Jill,
don't
care
believe
to
in
care to
making
add anything to that?
No, she's spot on about that.
I I don't believe in making anyone feel small in this world. Mistakes happen and we are all human. It doesn't matter how young or old you will always have an opportunity to learn and you always have an opportunity to show kindness.
Yes, yes. I mean, well said. I want to say this again about the marvelous job parents do getting their kids to the point of graduating from high school. I mean, that's got to be an awesome experience. Then, when they graduate from high school, a lot of times parents are exhausted, they're done, they're tired, and they don't understand that so much education and learning has to follow. And in the case of John, I know that his mother, Jerry, really did try to keep a social network together for him and his friends from high school. But she said it just seemed like the parents weren't into it. They had kind of given up. They got the kids through high school. Now let's just get them some kind of a job. They'll live at home, and that's the best they can have for their lives. And obviously, that's not true in a lot of cases. Now, of course, there's exceptions to everything, but I think what's happening in front of me, what I'm seeing with both of you, is education is continuing, and John's self-educated for
Yep.
quite a long time, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Um, he's self-educated by reading books, cataloging animals, birds, different species. And then my mom tried to be very helpful,
Yeah.
with reading and such. So I'm really glad that there's this organized effort ongoing now with you and John. This is wonderful. I wanted to circle back to something you said several minutes ago, Kate,
Yes, ma'am.
when I had asked about, what prompted the request for a diagnosis to see if you were on the spectrum. I'm learning a lot just by doing this show. I am. And I think everybody learns a lot as they move through each day, with whatever circumstances you have to deal with. Did you ever consider, has it ever come up with you, Kate, that you might be gifted? Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yes, I during my high school years, I was in Canada. So I lived in Canada for 6.5 years, but I was born and raised in Pennsylvania for a good majority of my life. Transferring from an American school system to a Canadian school system was very hard on me intellectually and physically and emotionally. I was bullied a lot. For my first year of high school, I really struggled to find where I fit. And then I started to embrace being who I was. I found a love for music and like physical like education. I would have my like homework open while I was doing squats in the gym. So I was getting the physical stimulation for my body, but I was also retraining my brain. And that's honestly probably how I graduated was being able to separate certain tasks and mush two things that I love together, um, to do that.
Where does the gifted part come in?
So for me, my giftedness isn't normal like you would see. Like some people are with beautiful artists, like it just comes naturally. I have always considered myself gifted in a sense of patience and kindness for anyone. I have the patience of a saint. You could be like pushing me this close to the edge and I'm still gonna stand there and be like, "We got this. It's okay. We may have to step away, take a few deep breaths and come back, but we will continue to do this. And then if it's too much, we'll find a way to reroute." I never want anyone to give up on themselves or to feel alone or like they don't have a support or like something I've heard a lot of people say in my life and something I've said too. I'm too stupid for this. No, you're learning. You are learning and it's hard. And
Yes.
the biggest thing for me is I have to have that patience and that love and that kindness because if I don't, then who else is going to show that to someone?
You've been nominated for the patience and kindness person. But here's what I mean by gifted. I learned this. Again, I've learned a lot from doing this show. Gifted, you are at a 130 IQ or higher. It starts with that. But with that, a lot of gifted people are on the autism spectrum because there's a balance quite often to being intellectually gifted. You are socially struggling sometimes. The whole thing about textures, and I've heard people talk about they just don't like the feeling of certain things on their body. I've listened to this, and I think things are just kind of meshed together. I mean, is anybody solely one thing versus another? I don't think so.
No, I've learned, especially from a personal experience, that my all of my diagnoses are kind of like this big ball of yarn, and you never know really which string you're pulling that day, and that's okay. When I first got all of my diagnoses, I really struggled with it because I always thought something was wrong with me, and a few years ago, my older sister Hannah, she started this healing journey, for herself, and I've always admired her. And I started to take little bits and more from her experience. And through doing that, I learned that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just special. I'm not weird. I'm not an outcast. I'm just different. And that's okay because if we were all the same, the world would be boring.
You're just a person. That's
Yes.
really it. You're just a person. John is just a person, and we express ourselves however we express ourselves. And that's kind of how I delineated things. All right, now I want to ask you about this. So you're working with John.
Yes, ma'am.
You can tell at this point what John's skills and talents are, and
Mhm.
there are many, and what his challenges are. When do you know, Kate, or do you know when you've pushed John, anybody, to the point where they can't go any further? Is that such a thing in learning?
Yes, actually. But when we're pushing that limit, it's not in a way of you have to do this. I tell John no matter what we're doing, whether we're going out for an outing or we're in our learning zone, if this is starting to be too much, I want you to give it one more try. If we give it one more try and you're getting frustrated and you're just tired of it, tell me. We will stop. We will completely walk away from something, whatever we're doing. We will go focus on something entirely different for a half hour. We'll go take a walk. We'll walk around the apartment. We'll take a different route through our day if necessary. Pushing those limits are necessary, but not to the point that you're going to cause a reaction of a meltdown or overstimulation. You can push those limits, but not to the point to where if John and I we haven't really come to that limit because we work
Yeah.
really well together and I can kind of read him so I know when we're starting to get to that point and I'm like, "All right, buddy, that's good. We did great for the day." I always encouragement. Encouragement is the biggest thing that I have found that works, especially when pushing limits. I tell John constantly, "I'm so proud of you. You're doing so good. Are you okay? Do we check in with me? What are we doing? How are we feeling? 1 to 10, where are we at?" It's constantly a communication. If that communication stops, there's no reason for me to be working with him because then we're at a wall and we're working against each other, not with each other.
Yeah.
John, um, do you feel that Kate is asking you to do anything that you can't do?
No, not really. Like, not really. I think that we do work really good together because I think, like, um, what's that word I'm trying to think? Well, because she can, like, when I get like real tired of doing something, because I get tired of doing stuff very easily, um, then I, I do it until I say I can't do it anymore.
Okay.
Like I'll give you an example. Like we went when Kate and I went to the zoo, and it was, and she kept saying, "John, is it because you know how like some like crowds they bother me," and she kept going, "John, are you okay? You did it." And I was like, "Yeah." I had to take little breaks, and then I just walked the whole. We almost walked the whole zoo until
We actually did make it through the entire zoo that
yeah,
day. And I told John, even before we left to go into the zoo, like my vehicle, I said, hey,
yeah,
this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be really crowded.
yeah,
We're gonna go through each exhibit at your pace, okay? And
hmm
then we're gonna find a quiet area after
yeah,
each exhibit and we're gonna do a check-in.
mm,
And if you tell me it's too much, we do not have to continue through the
yeah,
day, but we might have to push through the zoo to get to the exit because they don't really like you going but down
yeah,
the
the other way, yeah,
um,
Okay. Right.
and it got to the point that we were doing like every two exhibits. We would get through two exhibits. I would stop in a quiet area and be like, "Hey, come here." We would
yes,
stop. How you doing? Do you need water? Do
yeah,
we need to leave? How are you on overstimulation? Is it too much? Is there any certain area that you want to go to that's going to help you regulate real quick? John loves elephants, and we sit with the
yes,
elephants for a good 15, 20 minutes, just
and
watching them, reading, talking. John actually educated me a lot on elephants that day. It was really nice. That was our first big outing, and
hmm
I think we crushed it
I
as a
think
team,
so. I think so.
as a aide and client. I think we did
hmm
really, really good that day.
Yeah,
And then for John doing so great and communicating with me, I that was the one day I bought him lunch too because we were on our way back. I was like, you know what? We've had a long day.
we had a long
It's
day.
everybody's overstimulated right now. Let's just grab some lunch at Panera. It's a healthy option.
Yeah,
And we can go back to the apartment and breathe and relax. And that's exactly what we did until the end of shift. We got back,
yes,
we kept the apartment quiet. We spoke little bits to each other. It didn't need to be a full conversation.
yeah,
I've also learned working with John that we can sit in a comfortable silence and it not feel heavy or awkward, but it's still reading each other's body language.
yeah.
Hmm.
Like I'm gonna give you an example. When I know she had her with that hyper thing that she has, sometimes she'll go like this to her, like her. She's an Apple Watch, so one of her things is she'll look at her
Oh,
watch
I'll trigger my
like
watch.
this. And I go, oh, it's probably her thing going, and she's like this, but she's not really on the phone. She's just that's the little thing that she does.
Right.
That's with the
Right.
ADHD with my watch.
Yeah,
If you wear an Apple
Yeah.
Watch, it triggers with movement. I move my
Right.
wrist like three or four
yeah,
times
3 or 4 times.
and I'm looking at the time.
hmm
Even if it doesn't change, it regulates my brain. I'm focusing on one small thing
Yeah,
to be able to pull myself back to continue to be. Because if I go down, I can't support John.
That's
no,
right.
that can't.
That's right. Well, you've hit on a few things. First of all, education is ongoing, and you just keep moving and accomplishing things and see where that lands you. Number two, you're out in community, which is always good because you get to interface with people and situations, and that's a learning experience as well. And you are helping John to live on his own more independently with the cooking skills, John,
Yeah,
and with math. I mean, math comes into everything, numbers
yeah.
come in.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything we do has to do with numbers somehow. So all of those areas that I wanted to really address with this show for people after they graduate from high school, being in a social community, being out, um, residential community. John, you're living,
hmm
independently, but with management. And
yeah,
then you've been employed and you're looking for viable employment on more of a full-time basis now.
yeah.
So I think everything seems to be great. And Kate, you're such a beneficial person to have. Um, I'm so happy to have met you. I'm so happy you're on board. I'm happy you're happy to
I'm
be
really
on
happy to
board.
I'm really happy to be here and I'm really happy that John found my company. and that our paths literally crossed. We met the day before. My
Yeah.
my scheduler called me the next day. She goes, "Hey, you remember John you met yesterday?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Hey, he needs some shifts covered and he might need a new caregiver. Are you interested?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "He seems like a great person to work with."
Mhm.
And I will say, working with John, we've been together about a month now.
Yeah.
Um, he has helped me grow as a person in so many different areas. He's helped me see light in a little bit lighter sense in some days. And I couldn't be more grateful for the things that he teaches me because without them, we as caregivers don't have a job. And for some people, it is just a job. For me, this is a career and a passion. I couldn't imagine myself not helping people, and I couldn't imagine myself not working with the neurodivergent communities.
It's a great community, isn't it? It's a
It
great
is. My love for this area actually started out in dementia and Alzheimer's. Um,
wow.
I started in facilities working on those units, and it was exhausting, but I found that being a voice for those people
Yeah.
just it was so fulfilling even after a long I worked night shift for months. You'd be pulling 16-hour shifts, getting off at 7 a.m. to go home. And there were some days I walked out like, is this really for me? And then one moment would change everything. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, yep, this is for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're here and John, well, I'm glad you're here too.
Yes. I'm the the insane one in the family, right, Aunt Judy?
Well, you can
Oh,
stand next to a lot of us on
I
that.
don't know about saying.
That's for sure. It's yes, it goes through a lot of us,
Yeah.
but we're a happy family.
Yep.
Thank you both. Inspirational. I wanted to shine a window on w- what what continuing education looks like once people graduate from high school, because it's education in all facets of our lives. It doesn't just exist in a classroom, it exists outside the home. So thank you both very much.
You're
Loved talking
welcome.
today.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for watching. Always appreciate this. These shows are for you. And I close as I always do. In the world of special needs people, we all need each other. Talk to you next week.